Last weekend I participated at FMC Worlds 2026 and broke the Swiss NR mean and single for FMC. This here will be a reconstruction, and this is the first scramble. It has 6 bad edges on this axis, 4 bad here, and 4 bad here. The bad ones are this, 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 and this. So you can solve this in 3 moves, but instead I did it in 4 with L2, F prime, L, D, which gives 4 bad corners and 2 bad edges. And you can set this up nicely by doing L2, F2, B. And what I did then was R, D2, R to solve the R in 10 moves with 4B2, which is a nice subset with 4 bad edges. What I should have done here instead was LB2D, which like I totally should write down, but it was 1 o'clock in the morning and I was tired, my stomach hurt, I wasn't feeling very well, so I guess that's why I missed it, I don't know. But if I did this, it's quite easy to, I mean, it's 1 move to the trigger. So HDR in 16 with this 1, 2, 3, which gives 18 to slice, and you can fix this slice with 1 extra move. So you can easily find a 19 that way. But I missed this. Instead, after I got the DR, I switched. Like first I tried a lot of ways to solve it in 2 quarter turns. And I found a 22 that way, but eventually I started trying 4 quarter turns. And here on the inverse you can do a B to reduce it to 2C3. And then I first solved it this way and found another 22. But then I decided to try switching. And there's one interesting thing. This is on the inverse and this is on the normal side. They are exactly the same on both sides. So you can also do the same moves to solve it here. But the difference is, like if you do it, you solve it with L2 and then you get this 6 move trigger. B prime, R2, U2. Then you can do B, R2, B prime. And then it's, well, now you have HDR and you can simply solve this 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the difference if you do this on this side of the scramble is it ends in a B move, in a B2. And the last move we did on the other side was a B, so this cancels out. And this way it is 1 move less doing it this way. And it results in a 21 instead of a 22. And yeah, this was my final solution, a 21, which is also optimal from that DR. It's a bit sad that I missed the 19, but yeah, whatever. Okay, now on to the second solve. This has 2 bad edges on this angle, 4 bad on this one, and 6 bad on this one. I ended up going with this axis, which has its bad edges here, 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 and here. So you could do a U prime, D prime, L to solve EO, but instead I ended up doing D prime, R2, U prime, L, which also solves EO in 4 moves. Then with a D, you get it into JCP, and now you could like it's 4 bad corners, 2 bad edges, so you could set it up to the trigger, and I didn't do that because I thought it would be too many moves. It just would have been an 11 move DR, so it would have been fine. And actually this 11 move DR would have had a 19. So yeah, I should have like went for it, but whatever. Instead I looked at this axis and there are 4 bad corners, 2 bad edges, so that's quite nice. And since this is in JCP on normal, on inverse this will be in JCP, so I switched. And now, as predicted, this is in JCP, and it's actually a quite nice case. You can do F2, R2 to set it up to the trigger, but this gives a bad subset. And what I didn't know in the past, and I've missed the 19 because of this, like some months ago, you can also do a U to F2, and this also sets it up to the trigger. But I actually still missed in this solve is instead of a U to F2, you can also do a D to B2, which I should have found, but it doesn't really matter, it's worse. So yeah, now you can do a U R to U to solve DR or a D B to D. I end up going with D B to D. This gives DR in 10 with 4B2, which is quite nice, 2 bad edges, so really good case. From here I switched and you get this, so you can do R to L to U to. This sets it up to the trigger. And here I first did like BL to B, but later I changed it to FU to F prime to switch to solve like the slice. And here you can just solve it in U to D to B to R to L to. And the cube is solved in 21 moves. And I also tried other stuff, but I didn't really found anything better for a long time. So I already wrote down the solution, but then I had like some more minutes left. And I was like, okay, let's just try some stuff. In the past, I had 221s to where I missed the optimal HDR finish and missed a 20 because of that twice. So I was like, okay, let's look at HDR, which is like this. So I looked at it again, was like, okay, maybe I can do F to R to L to instead. But that doesn't solve the E slice, which is kind of annoying. But then I looked at my solution and noticed, okay, this is the last thing on normal. The last thing on inverse I did was the setup to DR, and that was a DB to D. And if you look at this, DB to D might help solving this. So what I ended up doing was I just like undid this part of my solution. So I D prime D B to D, R to L to B to U to D2, and I had this. So I did what so I did like the alternative HDR thing, F to R to L to, and then you get this. So you can just solve it in D F to U to D prime. Then I counted it and was like, okay, this is one move less, so this is a 20, nice, this is an R single. Then I wrote down the solution, executed it, and during the execution, I noticed, wait, there's an F prime, and afterwards comes my, like the thing I changed, this starts with an F2, so this cancels a move, so it's a 19. And then I wrote it, like, changed it again, and then like, I tried it and it worked, and I didn't even count it really. I was like, okay, maybe it's a 19, maybe a 20. It's certainly an R single. And yeah, it is a 19. And like what I said was that I missed this DR here from EO, which led to a 19. And as it turns out, this 19 from here is exactly the same DR, exactly the same 19 as I ended up finding, just in a much fairer way. So yeah, this is my first 19. Actually, my first 19 ever. Like I always do stupid mistakes and miss 19s at home. And honestly, I don't know if I would have found this 19 at home, because the only reason I found it was because I was like, I didn't know what to do, so I just did some random stuff and it ended up working out. So yeah. Going into the last scramble, I knew I would have to get a 26 to tie the NR mean. And on the same weekend, I already had another comp with 2 FMC means. And the worst single I got there was a 25. So a 26 seemed quite doable. So this, actually it isn't the first scramble, it is the first extra scramble. The first scramble got leaked with the day before. It has 8-bit on this axis, 6-bit here, 8-bit here, and it only has 3 form of EOS. So it is the worst scramble of the 3, but on the other hand, like the the first two scrambles both had then findable 19, so they were pretty good. But like the good ones on this axis are this, and this one. So you can do an F to reduce it to 4-bit. And if you switch, then the bad ones are this, and this. So you can do an R2 D prime B prime to solve EO in 4 moves. And then from here, you can just do an L. And this reduces it to 4-bit corners and 4-bit edges. And actually, like if you do an L prime instead, you have those 2 bars, which looks quite nice. But it is quite annoying to solve because of the E slice. But you can do it, and there are like 8 variations of it, and it's an 11 move DR with 2C4. So not terrible, but it's not the greatest thing. But there still is actually a 21 findable from one of those 8 variations. But like I think on the whole, on the scramble, only like 2 or 3 people found at 21, so it is quite hard to find. I checked the DR at the end a bit, but I didn't really find anything nice from it. So instead of that, I decided to switch, and this gives this. And the last move on the normal was an F. So instead, you also can do an F prime. And now you have this, so you can do UD or U prime D prime to set it up to this 4-move trigger here, which again has some variations. So in the end, you have 8 variations to this DR. And the one I ended up going with is R U2 B2 L prime. And this reduces it to 4B2 with 4-bit edges. So all 3 of my solves actually had 4B2 in the final solution. So yeah. And like I found this DR at less than 20 minutes, and I was like, okay, I already did some moves on normal and inverse. I basically have to solve this now. So I decided to just solve it, and maybe I find something nice. So I'm not quite sure what I exactly did here, but I probably did something like the R2 B2. Now you can do an R2 or L2 to solve. R2 or L2 to solve, to set it up to the trigger. If you do an R2 U prime B2 R2 D, you get this. And I think I did this right when I found the DR. I looked at this and was like, okay, this looks nice. Maybe I should write this down. So I scrambled the cube again and write all the moves down. And like you can solve this to slice by doing R2 B2 D2 B2 D2. And this reduces it to slice. In 23 moves. So I was like, okay, this could be good enough for NR. And actually it is, you can just like go some moves back. And here, like this is the beginning of the HDR, so the last move was a D. So you can insert an E2, which just adds 1 more move, and then just like solve it again, and this gives a 24. And I already knew at that point that I have NR mean after like less than 20 minutes, so that was quite nice. I still like tried to find better DRs, but I didn't find any better DR. I checked like this DR and variations of it. I didn't find anything better. There, like from 2 of the variations, there are findable 22s, but there are 8 variations, so it is hard to find. And from the variation I ended up doing, there are 23s, but they seemed rather hard to find, like with 4 quarter turns, which isn't unfindable, but I don't know. It seemed hard to find. So yeah, that ended up being a 21.33 mean, which is quite good for me. And will be really hard to beat, but who knows, maybe one day. And maybe the single is probably beatable if I get the lucky scramble, but yeah. Bye.